Welcome back, everyone. It's fourth quarter. The AP exam is only a couple weeks away. You've been working really hard. You're tired. You're probably feeling a little exhausted. What better time than now to talk about motivation? So, we're going to talk about some physical motivators today, some social motivators, and some cognitive motivators. And think motivation, it's what's pushing you toward achieving a particular goal. And you can apply it to lots of different parts of your life. We'll start with physical motivators. These are motivators that you don't have to be taught. They're going to happen naturally in this world. Instincts and reflexes, we sometimes use those words interchangeably, but they don't mean the exact same thing in psychology. Reflexes, these are singular responses to some particular stimuli, right? Like if there's a puff of air in your eye and you flinch back or you blink, that's a reflex. Whereas instincts are going to be a series, a chain of relatively complex behaviors that you aren't taught, that we just do naturally. A bird's ability to build a nest, for example, or an expecting mother to kind of create a nursery and build a home that's ready to bring home her first baby, right? These are instincts that we have. Now, with physical motivation, perhaps the most prominent theory that you should be familiar with is the idea of drive reduction. Drive reduction is all about maintaining homeostasis, and we have all these different needs in our world. And if a need is not being met, it's going to produce this internal state of tension, what we call a drive. So, for example, we have the need of water. And if that need is not met, the internal state of tension, the drive, is thirst. And so, drive reduction theory, it's the motivation of reducing that internal state of tension. We have drive reducing behavior. If you're thirsty, your drive reducing behavior is to go get a glass of water. So, drive reduction, we're trying to make sure that we're constantly maintaining homeostasis, and it's the motivation to do such. Now, another physical motivator is the idea of arousal. Now, remember with AP Psych, when we're talking about arousal, we're talking about the physiological response to something that could be producing some stress, right? And so we think about fight or flight response, for example. So your heart rate starts to beat faster, you start to breathe deeper, your pupils might dilate. We have these different states of arousal. And we are motivated to have this optimum level of arousal. For some people, it's pretty low, right? Your optimum level of arousal, you are content just kind of hanging around. You could be on the couch playing a video game or reading a book. Some people, they have a really high optimum level of arousal. And so they get bored easily because they need to kind of get their body going. And so they want to go ride mountain bikes, right? They want to go cliff diving. They want to go ride roller coasters because they have a really high optimum level of arousal. Now, the Yerkes-Dodson law looks at the relationship between our level of arousal, or as you can see listed here, stress level, right, and our performance. And Yerkes-Dodson finds that we need to be somewhat stressed to give our best performance. In other words, we need to have some arousal to give our best performance, because if there's no stress at all, we become apathetic, we become lazy, we become distracted. You know, if the very first day of AP Psych, you decide you're going to go home and study for 3 hours for the AP Psych exam, that's 9 months later, it won't be very long before you're on your phone and you're just doing something else because you don't have that stress there. Whereas if you wait until the night before the AP test to start studying, it's too late. You're going to become overwhelmed. You're going to become disorganized. You're going to freak out. It's not going to work. So you got to find that middle ground, right? Yerkes-Dodson law, there's this kind of nice bell curve. You need the perfect amount of arousal to give your best performance. And when we're talking about physical motivation, a big motivator is hunger, right? And making sure that we go get food when we're hungry. And so we talked earlier about the hypothalamus. It's that part of your brain, part of your subcortical structures that helps with internal drives. And we can break down your hypothalamus actually in a couple different parts. The outer layer of your hypothalamus is what we call your lateral hypothalamus. And your lateral hypothalamus is going to increase your hunger drive. Specifically, it's going to do that by releasing orexin in the brain. And orexin is this hunger chemical that when released, you're like, I gotta go get some food. And let's say you're scrounging around, you find some candy. I got 100 grand here, the candy bar, not actual cash, though that would be nice. And so you eat that candy bar and you're good. Well, your ventromedial hypothalamus, which is kind of the inner part of your hypothalamus, is then going to turn off orexin. and it's going to say you're full, you're satisfied, you don't need to eat anymore. Orexin is really similar to a chemical we find in our stomach called ghrelin. And it's a similar thing where when you release ghrelin in your body, it drives you to go find food. And then when ghrelin goes away, you're good. You're feeling fine. We have these satiety hormones, PYY and leptin. Leptin is found in fat cells. PYY is found in your digestive tract. And when these chemicals are released, again, it gives you kind of a full feeling. I have those two terms at the bottom: set points, metabolic rate. Hunger motivation is interesting because we have the aspect of hunger motivation of we should eat when we're hungry, but we also have some more kind of social cognitive aspects of motivation that revolve around eating and revolve around feeling hungry, and how sometimes we want to eat food even when we're not hungry. Sometimes we want to avoid food even when we are hungry. And so when we're looking at people who are trying to gain or lose weight for whatever reason that may be, maybe they're a high school wrestler and they're trying to change their weight class, right? That can be pretty tough because we have what are called set points, and a set point is like your ideal body weight. And when your ideal body weight starts to fluctuate, maybe you put on 5 pounds, or maybe you take off 5 pounds, then some weird things start to happen to your metabolism. Your metabolism is either going to pick up or it's going to slow down, depending on where you rest with your set point. Your metabolic weight, think, or your metabolism, think, how much energy are you using just existing, right? For your lungs to help you breathe, for your heart to beat, for you to process this information. That all takes energy. So as you are just sitting there on the couch right now, your body is burning energy. And your body will start to burn more energy quicker if you start to go above your set point, if you start to put on weight, because it's trying to bring you back down. Whereas if you're trying to lose weight, that metabolism is going to slow down to try to conserve that energy to try to bring your weight back up. And then this is our last slide. Some other things that motivate us. Incentives. Think these are motivating on their own, right? We are motivated to get things that we consider rewarding, whether that be a candy bar or a paycheck, right? These are all incentives that we have. Intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. Intrinsic motivation would be things that are motivating internally, right? Satisfaction from being successful, for example, is an intrinsic motivator. Extrinsic motivation are these promised rewards. You know, if you study really hard, your parents they're gonna take you out for ice cream, right? That's an extrinsic motivator. Keep in mind that we are intrinsically motivated to do lots of different things. Maybe you have someone who's a musician and they're intrinsically motivated because they just love learning how to play different instruments and they love learning how to play new songs. But then if they start getting paid for this, if it becomes a job, they may lose some of that intrinsic motivation. That's what we call the over-justification effect, when we provide an extrinsic motivator for something that we are intrinsically motivated to do. And then lastly here, we have Maslow's hierarchy of needs, or what some people call Maslow's hierarchy of motivators. And it's a pyramid on purpose, because the idea is you have to meet the bottom, the foundation, before you can meet things that go on top of that. And so you strip everything away. Our most basic motivators are these physiological needs. You can think kind of like drive reduction. And if you don't have food, water, warmth, you name it, that's what you will be motivated to do, right? That will trump everything else. Once you meet those physiological needs, the next kind of level are going to be our safety and security needs, to make sure that you're safe and secure from things that may harm or hurt you. If those are being met, the next step up, our love needs, our belongingness. And so this is where we're motivated to find social groups and find friends. Next step are our esteem needs. And so when you're motivated to get an A in a class, when you're motivated to become employee of the month, you're motivated to get a promotion, being recognized for your hard work and your accomplishments, those are esteem needs. And then finally, at the very top, kind of the tip of this pyramid, is self-actualization. And it's the motivator to being essentially the best possible person that you can be. It's achieving your fullest potential. So really quick through motivation. This normally takes us about 3 days in class, and so we went real quick. Hopefully that helps remind you of some of the things we talked about in our lessons. If you have any questions, obviously don't hesitate to reach out, and best of luck.